Having engaged in the pre-reading activity for Adichie's short story collection, The Thing Around Your Neck, last week, I'd like to spend a few minutes highlighting a few important things before we get into the work. As we start exploring the short stories, I want us to be mindful of the cultural context of the work. Globalization, the impact of colonialism and post-colonialism in this case, stereotypes, and what it means to be multicultural. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie was born in 1977 in Nigeria, the fifth of 6 children of Igbo heritage. Her birth came 17 years after Nigeria's independence from Great Britain and 2 years before Nigeria became a republic in 1979. Adichie was brought up in Nsukka by both parents, both academics, and in the aftermath of the failed War of Biafran independence, she moved to the United States at age 19 to attend college and to pursue her writing career. She had early success with her novels, Purple Hibiscus in 2003 and Half of a Yellow Sun in 2006. At an early age, Adichie discovered the work of Chinua Achebe, the father of Nigerian literature, and realized that until she had read his work, she had been writing her stories based on her exposure to literature from Europe. Achebe legitimized for her the idea that she could write of her own African experiences, colored with exposure to European influences. Adichie's first collection of short stories, The Thing Around Your Neck, was published in 2009. Within the pages of the short story collection, the reader gets a clear sense that the work teeters between a number of dualities: fiction and autobiography, the expectations of the observer and the experience of the witness, the value of personal experience versus shared global experiences. To quote Jess Rowe of the New York Times, as a whole, the work traces the journey Adichie herself has taken. All these personhoods are represented here: the sheltered child, the vulnerable immigrant in Philadelphia and Brooklyn, the foreign student adrift in a dormitory in Princeton, the young African writer asked to objectify herself for an uncomprehending audience. All these are her. About post-colonial literature. Post-colonialism invites us to consider the after effects or impact of colonialism on ex-colonial societies, maybe as persons with a colonial history or in the interest of global development and awareness. What better space to explore this than in the art of those formerly colonized? I should point out here for context that the Jamaican experience of the last 50 years has been a post-colonial experience. Since the turn of the 21st century, the idea of post-colonialism has expanded to include the experiences of minorities in the United States, the United Kingdom, Aborigines in Australia, and in some instances, the growing number of displaced persons from the Middle East. You see, the idea of colonialism is not a thing of the past. The idea that big empires like Britain, France, the Dutch, and Portuguese were colonizers has now shifted. We should keep this in mind going forward. There are a number of conditions that are characteristic of the post-colonial experience. It is not a series of events, but rather what is currently impacted as a resulting shift in the ebb and flow of oppression, domination, and exploitation. The post-colonial experience is ongoing. Derek Walcott, Louise Bennett, and Lorna Goodison are Caribbean writers who have works that twist the use of English. They write in dialect, make the language sound spoken instead of written, insert dialect or patois or cultural terms in their work. It's still English, but it's a different kind of English. It's an appropriation of the colonizer's language. Other familiar examples may be found in Isabel Allende's work with the use of magical realism, in Chinua Achebe's work inserting proverbs and African dialect, in a work like The Thing Around Your Neck with the use of proverbial sayings and reflections. Meta-narrative. This is when one assumes that there is more than one side to a story. The colonized tell their story to counter the real story as told by the colonizer. In the 21st century, we're seeing that when we talk about the retelling of history told through the eyes of the colonized. The struggle of decolonization is a recognition that the past is intricately entwined in who we are as the ex-colonized, and this is sometimes hard to separate and start anew. The duality of self. Recognizing that the elements that work together to create the identity of the ex-colonized and learning to embrace and legitimize these aspects of ourselves contribute to us establishing a cultural identity. While this is not extensive, post-colonial literature represents all the aforementioned. We are not unfamiliar with post-colonial literature either. From as early as William Shakespeare's The Tempest with Caliban the Beast, Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children, Isabel Allende's The House of the Spirit, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, and V.S. Naipaul's Miguel Street, to name a few. I hope you found this useful as a step into Adichie's work and as a way of connecting with the knowledge we already have and are about to hone. Happy reading.